first Latina ever on 106 in Park.
Yeah.
That was major.
Yeah, it was really cool because I got a chance to see people in the audience that would actually watch me. A lot of people think my first hosting job ever was BET, but I already had done The Roof, and I saw a lot of Latinos now starting to be in the audience, like, oh, we used to watch you on The Roof. And I just thought to myself, wow, I don't think BET ever realized how much hip hop Latinos love hip hop culture, love the music, and how heavily influenced we are by the music and the genre. And particularly for me, I grew up with 3 older brothers, and they taught me all about hip hop. I didn't know about West Coast rap until one of my brothers, who was obsessed with Tupac and NWA and Dre and all that. Like, I didn't even know anything about the difference between hip hop in different regions of the country. And because I'm from New York, so I'm just thinking New York.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was nice to be able to represent in a way, being Latina on BET.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to Growing Up Latina. I am your host, Alyi V. And as you can see, we have changed sets. So if you're listening on the audio, you can't see, but on YouTube, you can clearly see that we have changed the set. And my guest today is the reason why.
Oh.
But it's cool because you actually, right now, we have a limited time with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
For doing this. Give a warm welcome to Julissa Bermudez.
I'll clap for myself.
Yes, clap. Thank you so much for coming. What brings you to NY?
First of all, congratulations on everything.
Thank you.
I'm so excited and proud of you. You look the same, and Lord knows we've known each other for a long time, and I've always admired your hustle, the way you have this ambition about you, and you really don't stop, which I think is such a beautiful thing to see. And all of this happening now is awesome. So I absolutely made the time, and I'm excited to be here. I actually don't, it's so weird, and you're an interviewer, so you know, I don't like being interviewed.
Really?
I prefer being in your seat and asking the questions. I never know what to do with my hands when I'm getting interviewed. I'm just like, but I'm excited to be here. So.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. So you and I, we've known each other forever.
Yeah.
So people don't know, but I went to high school with you.
Yes.
So we went to Talent Unlimited High School, and every time I mention Talent Unlimited High School, people are like, what high school is that?
Yeah, it's a performing arts high school, guys.
It's a performing arts high school. And I was a drama major. You were a drama major. So when I got in, when I was a freshman, you were, what, junior, senior?
Maybe, perhaps, I don't know.
But the cool thing with
Looking like a freshman, though,
yes,
right?
you look the same. You honestly look the same.
Thanks.
But
so that skincare, girl.
Yo, that skincare. What I remember about you from back in the day is you were always welcoming. You were very nice to me. Because when you meet someone that's like a little older than you, they feel like they have this like seniority and, like, oh, you're a freshman. You never treated me like that.
Oh, that's nice to know. I don't remember that much from high school, actually.
You chilled with Gloria. Do you remember
Yes,
Gloria?
of course I remember Gloria.
So I met you through Gloria.
Yeah.
And I was just like that girl that just wanted to be a part of the cool crowd, and you were in the in crowd. You were like one of the popular ones.
I don't even know how I ended up in that crowd, by the way. And it's so funny that Gloria, she was really the coolest one because she was competing in pageants.
Yes, and
she was. Funny enough, I just co-hosted the Miss USA pageant. So Gloria crossed my mind because she was competing for Miss New York. I mean, Miss Teen New York, and then Miss New York and all that stuff. So, wow. Talk about throwback and memories.
Do you remember like when you auditioned for Talent Unlimited?
I do remember, and it's funny because I don't even know if people that went to school with us know this, but it ended up being eventually found out. But my cousin was the Spanish and French teacher at Talent Unlimited.
Ooh. I'm like, why am I just finding out? Ooh.
Yeah, she was, so my cousin.
Serious?
Yeah. So she told me, it's so bad because she remarried and I don't
Now you don't remember her name?
what name she uses now. But
okay. But while we were in school, she was this like.
Yeah.
Wow.
Basically, you had to audition.
Yes.
And she ends up calling my mom. And she's like, oh, Priscilla said that you got into the program. And I was like, really? So then I didn't even bother going to my audition for LaGuardia because I got told in advance. Yeah. So for performing arts high schools, if you're not from New York City, the luxury of, which I think is such a dope thing, especially for the arts, if you aren't from here, you get a chance to basically go to a specialty high school. Yes. And our specialty high school was a performing arts high school. So basically in the curriculum, they included your regular classes along with your theater classes, if that was your major, dance classes, if you were a dance major, singing classes, if you were a singer. So it was really, I think it's so it doesn't get talked about. It's so a topic that just doesn't get put out there of how important the arts and being able to go to a specialty, like such a blessing that we grew up in a city that you can go to specialty schools. I mean, my nephew right now, he's thinking about wanting to be a pilot, and in Queens, they have aviation high school. So I think it really does give you a taste and saves you some time in the future, because a lot of people major in things that they think they want to be in life, and you can kind of start that journey early, and if it doesn't really spark the passion that you thought it would, you can move on, as opposed to doing that later on in life. Right. And we all know, time is precious.
That's right.
So
But was your mom like accepting of this?
Oh, girl, my mom lives vicariously through me. Are you kidding me? She's never been a stage mom. She still to this day does not know what an audition is. Right. The most she ever got a taste of being on camera was when I did Empire Girls, and because that was a docuseries reality show, we shot at my house with my parents. So she got a little bit of a taste of that, but she always gave me free range to go to the auditions. She, really was supportive from a distance, not overbearing, because she really didn't know anything about the business, but she knew that she didn't want to hold me back. When she was growing up Latina, my grandmother never really gave her those opportunities, because back then they just had such a stigma attached to the industry. My abuelita was like, ay, no, eso nada más de drogas y esto y lo otro. So she never let my mom really pursue being a model. She would get asked. I mean, my mom would enter like local little modeling things here and there, but she never really went and pursued it. She ended up working at Chase Bank, where she met my dad, and then later on became a teacher for kids with special needs. But
so wait, really quick, your mom and your dad, they're both Dominican?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I was born in DR.
You were born in DR. What part of DR?
In Gascue, which is in the capital.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when did you move to New York?
I was barely 2 years old.
Okay. So elementary, what was that like for you?
Funny enough, we moved here, and then we ended up moving to Miami. Okay. My dad wanted to change, but my mom doesn't drive. So I went to PS 89. I basically moved when I was getting ready to go to I think it was 4th, 5th grade. Okay. And that didn't really last because my mom is such a New Yorker. She doesn't drive. And in Miami, you need a car to go everywhere. That's right. So we quickly packed our bags and came back to New York. And then I did, junior high and then high school.
But back to New York in Queens.
Yeah, back to New York in Queens, Jackson Heights.
Jackson Heights, Queens. Then you audition, which I love that you are saying that your mom was accepting, because I had the opposite.
Really?
So my mom, I threatened my mother.
Oh my goodness.
I told my mom, I don't want to go to any high school if it's not performing arts. I would rather get my GED. And she was like, mira, ¿qué tú estás hablando? I'm like, I don't, I just, from a very young age, I just couldn't see myself going to school, studying for something that I wasn't absolutely passionate about. And then when I auditioned to LaGuardia, didn't get accepted.
Oh, wow.
When I auditioned for Talent Unlimited High School, my mother spoke to Mr. Shankman,
the
principal,
oh my God,
remember?
Yes.
So she spoke to the principal, and she's like, my daughter's getting in, right? She's for sure getting in. And he's like, no, I think
the threat's clearly running the family.
Yeah. She was like, she's going to get in. And he was like, yeah. When I got the call, I was so ecstatic. But I don't come from a family where anybody in my family does arts.
Yeah, same.
Okay. But I love that your family was like championing you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't come from a family that's anyone is famous in my family.
Okay.
They don't know what. They thought I made it when I was on Telemundo and Mundos. Like, they're like, ah, that's it.
Yeah.
When you going to buy us a house? And I was like, this is a very, very budget show and it's new. But yeah, it's interesting the things that you learn along the way. So this is why I think it's so cool to be in position to kind of pay it forward and whatever advice or kind of toolkit that you've acquired along the way to be able to share. I think it's nice. But I'm so glad that your mom ended up being supportive, I would imagine.
Yes. Okay. Now she's like, she already thought, she thinks in her mind, oh my God, my daughter made it. I'm like, no, there's still a long way to go. But in terms of like your experience with Talent Unlimited High School and specifically drama, what was that like? Because I felt like I had like a really difficult time because of my accent. But I wonder, what was your experience like in the drama department?
Well, first of all, Miss Glover and Miss
Love Miss Glover. She was the best. I
heard she ended up being principal
of Talent Unlimited?
That's what I heard. I don't know who told me that, but rumor has it.
Remember she had the long red hair?
Yes.
She was our movement teacher.
Yes. So Miss Hamill.
Miss Hamill.
Which is our drama teacher.
That was our drama teacher. And Mr. Coleman?
Yes. So Alyi, I don't know if you remember or not, but in order to actually perform and get a chance to be in the plays, you basically had to behave. And I didn't get to perform until my senior year.
Oh my God.
Because
you were bad?
Yeah, I just would talk too much.
I can see that.
Yeah, I was apparently.
And now look at you.
I will never forget.
That's amazing.
Someone was substituting. I think it was for, do you remember Miss Baccarat?
Yes, I do. Yes,
so someone was substituting for her.
Oh my God.
And the first thing that they wrote on the chalkboard was loquacious. And they were like, that's what you are. And I said, what'd you call me? And it means talkative.
Yes.
So because of that reason, I feel like I would do well in the performing and in all the things that we did in theater classes, but I actually didn't get a chance to be in a production until my senior year.
That's insane.
I would perform for the class, but to be in plays, you had to apply yourself, and I was.
Oh my God!
Yeah, my mom
Julie.
used to be like, "When am I gonna finally see you?" And I'm like, I think you don't get to perform until your senior year. And I will admit, I could have definitely applied myself a lot more. I remember my mom used to see me laying out my clothes every night before school, and she'd be like, "Tu vas para la escuela o un fashion show?" And I'm like, both.
Yeah, because you do give fashion.
I mean, thanks.
And you've always given fashion.
Thanks.
I love that about you, because you always gave fashion. Now the talking, I can see that, but look where you're at now in terms of like, now you're hosting and you get jobs for talking,
right?
Which is amazing. What about after high school? What was that like for you? I went to BMCC. So I graduated with my bachelor's at BMCC, and then I graduated, associate's BMCC, bachelor's at Lehman College.
Nice.
But you had like a different trajectory.
Yes, I did. I actually did not want to go to college right after high school. And once my parents found that out, they were like, so ¿qué tú vas a hacer? They basically were like, well, what are you going to do then with this time that you want to supposedly take off? Yeah. And I said, well, I'm going to figure it out. They're like, no. So I had to apply to something last minute, like basically registration for most colleges. I mean, they had no idea that I was up to a whole other plan.
Right.
And then Gloria ended up applying to Five Towns College in Long Island. She's like, well, I got in. And I said, all right, I guess I'll go there then. So I applied. I got accepted, and I basically went to Five Towns College and was continuing to study theater. I was going to get my BFA, and I did a semester and a half, and I basically left because I ended up booking a show called The Roof while I was going to college, and I really had to make a decision. Was I going to continue going to school, or was I going to accept the opportunity? And in my mind, the thinking behind that was, well, school's always going to be there. The opportunity may not be. And that audition was crazy. It was basically a cattle call. I don't even know why they called it an audition, because when I arrived, it was hundreds of people lined up. And I just kept making it from every round. They would just start getting less and less people to stay. And I kept going through each round of the audition and the chemistry testing that they would put us with everyone. And next thing I knew, they offered me the job. I had no idea what I was doing.
That's great.
Full circle moment, went back to Miami and was hosting my very first show on Mundos, which is when Telemundo and NBC merged. And basically they came out with a network catering to Latinos like us, where we grew up in a Spanish-speaking household, but we would respond in English. And we're very much influenced by pop culture, urban culture, all American things that are trending, whatever it was to, I guess, assimilate or, it was basically balancing our culture with the culture of where we are now, where we're living in the United States of America.
Right.
So I always thought that The Roof was very trailblazing in that way. And it was one of my absolute favorite shows because I was so green, the term in this industry when you really don't know what you're doing. And they like to call you green.
Yeah.
And Lord knows I was definitely that. I was like all shades green. And I would just walk up on set all excited, like a sponge, ready to absorb everything I could learn. And literally did that for 2 weeks of rehearsal before I was live on national television for 2 hours hosting this show called The Roof. And I did that for a couple of years and then came back to New York and continued to audition, then ended up on BET. From BET, went to MTV. From MTV,
Whoa. Slow down there. Because you just said a lot. But we're going to get into all of that. But who taught you how to do headshots, how to audition, the resume that you needed in order to get these auditions? Who actually put you on to these auditions?
Girl, so
you want to take a sip really quick?
Sure.
Cheers.
I'm like, how much time we got? But yeah. Funny enough, I'm sure you can relate. You're Latina. You're Dominican.
Yes, I
And
am.
my mom tells me that we're going to the Bronx to a cousin of mine's Sweet 16, a cousin I've never met. So I'm sure.
Yeah.
In that
we have
sense,
many cousins.
we have many cousins.
Right.
Tu prima. I'm like, yeah, prima, okay.
All of a sudden, there's 16 primas that you
Exactly.
have. Yeah.
And we go to the Bronx to this birthday party. And my mom starts telling my other cousin, Jeronimo, who was doing some acting. He was a day player on soap operas. He was just in the mix. And my mom was like, oh, háblale a Jeronimo que tú quieres ser actriz. So he's like, oh, well, I have this lady out of Long Island that's just been sending me to auditions. She's a viejita, but she gets me some good stuff. You should send her your pictures. I'm like, okay. So I legit, back in the day, pictures actually got printed. They didn't just live on a cloud.
Nope.
So I took pictures, legit like 4x6 pictures.
Right.
And I mailed them to this lady, this viejita in Long Island. And I didn't hear anything. And then maybe like 3 weeks later, she says she's having auditions in the city that she does that every kind of quarterly or whatever. She goes into the city, you audition, and then basically see what happens from there, right? So I said, okay. Her name was Donna Malo. I remember vividly. I go into the city. I remember I auditioned. She made me read a commercial. She's like, okay, great, I'll call you. It was one of those don't call us, we'll call you type of things.
Yeah.
Didn't hear anything. Then I hear from her maybe a little over a month after. She says, I have an audition for you. She gives me the information. And it was a Wendy's commercial. First commercial I ever went in, first audition, I book it. And I was like, wow, I didn't even realize how much money you can make off commercials, especially back then. So at this point, I'm like, I literally still don't know what I'm doing. I got my SAG card from that commercial. And come to find out, she ended up discovering Michelle Trachtenberg. She ended up discovering, what's that actor's name that did Everybody Hates Chris? The star, the kid. So she was just discovering, I'm so sorry, I forgot his name, but she was discovering people. And yeah, my cousin, I remember, he just gave me the info and it literally snowballed. Everything from there just so kind of, she sent me on the audition for The Roof, which was the first show I ever hosted, the one in Miami, and just kind of went from there. And she basically let me fly. Once it got to a point where other bigger agencies were interested, she said, go ahead, and, gave me her blessing. And kind of went from there.
Okay, so now let's fast forward a little bit. So now, back in the day, back in the 2000s, we have this show that comes out. And this was the show, and for the Gen Zs that are not aware, we had like this major show that came out on BET, and I would rush home to watch it, I remember. And Fridays was Freestyle Fridays, and you would just rush home to watch like who was gonna hit that #1 spot for like the top 10 countdown, right?
Back in the day when people would actually watch music videos.
When we would watch music videos. And I'm referring to 106 in Park.
Yes.
And that was like a big deal. And I remember when AJ and Free made the announcement that they were no longer gonna be the host, they were gonna move on. I actually auditioned for 106 in Park.
Amazing.
So remember they had like that,
Yeah.
well, they had like a big announcement like, okay, so we're gonna, try everyone out. Whoever wants to audition.
Yeah, they had an open call. Yeah.
And I remember I auditioned and I was like, I'm gonna use all my cards. At the time I was interning for Damon Dash. So I was like, Damon, sit right there. We're gonna shoot this audition tape for 106 in Park. And I'm doing the whole countdown. I'm introducing Nicki Minaj's video, Bees in the Trap.
Wow.
Yeah, this is how back we are now. And then back in the day, you didn't have like an editor. You would edit your own things.
Yeah.
There was no iMovie. So the video.
No apps.
Nothing. So it looked crazy. I can see why I didn't get it.
But you got
it. But you got the spot. And when I remember when I first saw you on TV, I was like, Julie is on. And I was so happy for you. What was that moment like?
I was never supposed to host 106 in Park.
What do you mean?
That was not a show that I ever auditioned for.
So how did that happen?
So basically, long story short, so I finished up in Miami doing The Roof. I moved back to New York. And while I was hosting The Roof, I also did, shout out to Fat Joe, because of him, he ended up doing this Echo Red campaign. Oh my gosh, the way I am aging myself right now. Jeez.
No, you're not.
So there was a really popular clothing brand back in the day. I hope it resurfaces, like how everything's coming back now.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Fat Joe, who was the first person I ever interviewed, he said, there's this girl hosting a show out of Miami. She's up and coming. Like, y'all should use her for the campaign because they were looking for one more talent to do this Echo Red campaign, which is the name of the brand. So I get the campaign. And it's in all the Vibe magazines. Again, this was when people would buy magazines.
That's right.
It was in all the urban magazines, it was actually in all the magazines. It was in Macy's, it was in all the stores. So I pick up Vibe magazine just to see my ad. And next to my ad, there's an article on Free from 106 in Park. And in the article, she mentioned Stephen Hill. And he was the vice president of programming at BET, and I tell my agent, I need to meet Stephen Hill. I want to know him. He should know me, whatever, because I just came from hosting a show in Miami. So then my agent was like, they're actually having auditions. I'll set you up, whatever. So I went, and when I say I was never supposed to host 106 in Park is because I actually was hosting an after-school show called The Student Center.
And yes, I remember the Student Center.
Yeah,
yes.
So that's the show that I basically auditioned for. Yes. That's the show they had me read for. And that's what I ended up doing because their host was leaving. So I ended up doing that. And then they incorporated me in 106 in Park while AJ and Free were still there. They had me in the audience. Right. Kind of backstage, audience, so I would go back and forth. And then when AJ and Free left so abruptly, they literally put Tigger and I to host. So I never really was supposed to be in that position.
So you fell in that position. Like it was there. Like, okay.
De la noche a la mañana. From a Friday to a Monday, I was basically
God.
hosting now their flagship show, their biggest show. And I had to obviously step my game up and
Were you nervous? Like now you were like.
I mean, looking back at it now, for sure, I was like 80 pounds soaking wet. I'm like, literally just bopping around, young, and excited to be there.
First Latina ever on 106 in Park.
Yeah.
That was major.
Yeah, it was really cool because I got a chance to see people in the audience that would actually watch me. A lot of people think my first hosting job ever was BET, but I already had done the roof, and I saw a lot of Latinos now starting to be in the audience, like, oh, we used to watch you on the roof. And I just thought to myself, wow, I don't think BET ever realized how much hip hop Latinos love hip hop culture, love the music, and how heavily influenced we are by the music and the genre. And particularly for me, I grew up with 3 older brothers, and they taught me all about hip hop. I didn't know about West Coast rap until one of my brothers, who was obsessed with Tupac and NWA and Dre and all that. Like, I didn't even know anything about the difference between hip hop in different regions of the country, and because I'm from New York, so I'm just thinking New York.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was nice to be able to represent in a way, being Latina on BET.
Yeah, and now next year marks the 50th anniversary of hip hop. What would you say is like the most memorable moment for you during that time, during 106 in Park?
Ooh.
Like your favorite hip hop moment?
Okay, well, this moment actually went viral before I guess viral was really a thing. But I'll never forget, we were in Harlem, and we basically took 106 in Park to Harlem for the week and did a big Mission Impossible set.
Yeah.
Because we had the stars of Mission Impossible coming on, and that included Tom Cruise.
Love that.
And
love that.
that moment, if you guys watched or know the moment I'm referring to, is when we taught Tom Cruise how to do the young jock.
No.
Yeah. The dance.
Gotta find that clip.
Dance.
I gotta insert clip.
Oh my gosh. Oh
Stop.
yeah. It was a moment that and the reason why I love that moment is because you could really see how massive the show was for not just the culture, but how blending of mainstream. I mean, this was a blockbuster movie with A-list celebrities that were coming on our show at the time on BET to promote, because they understood the influence of that.
Yeah, that was a major moment. And I could imagine Tom Cruise doing the young jock. I can't.
And then I ran into him years later, and
Tom
I don't know if he was just being extra kind, but
What did he say?
he said that he remembered.
No.
I mean,
Did you ask him to do it again?
I didn't, because I ran into him at a restaurant in LA. Girl, LA is such a trippy place to live. Like, you will see the biggest stars and A-listers just getting
Like, just
coffee
chilling.
and at a restaurant.
When did you move to LA?
Almost 10 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah,
What was
it
that
went by
like?
so fast. At first, I hated it.
Why?
The lifestyle was different. I felt out of place. Everything was, I ended up getting my license, thank God, because, New York, everybody just gets their permit.
Train and that's it. We don't even, if you get your permit. If you get your permit.
But I ended up having to get a license because remember my first hosting job was in Miami, so you needed to drive. So it was just driving everywhere, and
The
traffic, and just, it was a different lifestyle, and the people from all over. And then it switched. I am now obsessed with LA, and I love it, and I love it because of the lifestyle.
Yeah,
yes,
but you always come back.
I do.
But what is it about the lifestyle that you love? Is it What is it? Is it the food? Is it like, what is it? I'm just trying to understand.
It is just different. I much rather be stuck in traffic on the 101 or the 405, because that's all people do is throw out numbers of highways in LA. Because I'm in my own bubble as opposed to the hustle and bustle of New York City.
Right.
The quality of life is just so different. I hike. I spend time outdoors. I never feel like I'm rushing and trying to catch up with myself. Mm-hmm. And I felt a lot of that in New York. Yeah. So the goal is definitely to be a lot more back and forth and bi-coastal.
But I always say, because everyone always tells me that you have to move to LA, you have to move to LA. And I'm always like, why? They're like, it's slow pace. And I'm like, well, why would I want that?
Right.
Like, why? And they're like, no, trust me.
When you get older,
if you can make it in New York, you're definitely going to make it in LA.
Yeah.
So I wonder now, with the hustle and bustle and just the mentality overall in New York, like, it's because New York,
you can have
is
the
a
New
real
York
thing.
hustle in LA. Right. Yeah, you're definitely going to stand out, and you're definitely going to succeed.
Yeah.
But to get back to the original question that you had asked me, why I am in New York. See, this is why I don't do interviews.
Yeah, no, but I love this. So why
I go off
are
on too
you?
many tangents.
No, go ahead. So what brings you to New York?
Hosting. I've been on Cheddar, which is a lot of people automatically have the app on a lot of their streaming networks or cable or the app on their phone. But Cheddar News was essentially where the name came from was because they would report a lot of news about money,
right?
Cheddar. So they were known for their financial news, but now they're doing a lot more different programming. So they want to do lifestyle, entertainment. And I came on to guest host for the week for a show called Trending, where we talk about all things that have been trending throughout the day, and then we basically catch you up on the stories.
I love this. Now, you have a lot of things coming up, so I want to go through it because I know your time is like super limited right now. You have a movie coming out.
Yes.
Starring, it's you, Ashanti, Cedric the Entertainer. Who else is in this movie?
Oh my gosh, it's such a talented
cast. It is a talented,
yeah. We have, well, I don't want to give it away either because you'll see some surprise guests, but Ashanti she's just one of the most likable. She's a fellow Libra.
Yeah.
She's just, I mean, what a career, right?
Yeah, definitely.
She's beautiful inside, outside, and such a likable, beautiful soul and spirit. And I play her best friend in the film.
Okay.
And it's a comedy. It's a rom-com. Jonathan Bennett is in it. A lot of people know him from Mean Girls. Cassie Scarborough is in it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. She has done a lot in the Disney franchise. So you guys might recognize her from that. But it's called The Plus One. And in the film, Ashanti is getting married. And I play her best friend. Yeah. And it's the plus one isn't necessarily welcomed or invited per se.
Okay.
So things get a little rowdy and crazy.
What is your character's name? Can we find that out or no?
No.
Is that okay?
I want you guys to watch.
Okay. All right.
Because I don't want you to think I hope it comes across different than how my personality is.
Okay. Do we know when the movie is coming out?
That I don't know either.
Okay.
Yeah, we just finished wrapping it up a couple months ago. So, I mean, usually things kind of have a quick turnaround. I was told, hopefully summer. Okay. I think it would be a great, fun summer film, but I think it would also do very well for spring break. Okay. So I have no idea.
Still warm season, so okay, I'm digging that. So that's like rooftop movie theater vibes.
Yeah,
love that. I wanted to talk to you about representation.
Okay.
In Hollywood. And the reason why is I do feel like representation, my understanding, and then you can share yours, but for me, representation is when, there's a lot of us. And when I say us, I mean Latinas, right? Latinos, Latinas. And I feel like there was a time where there wasn't enough representation. Now we have it. We see it with, like a show, Orange is the New Black, right? We see the representation there. We see Dasha Polanco, and you see Dominicans, Mexicans, and it's dope, right? Like you just see the show and you're like, yes. But then we play people in prison, prisoners. So that to me, I don't want to say it's like a slap in the face. That's very strong, so I'm not going to say that. But it's almost like troubling to me for me to see that type of representation. And I always wonder, like, why we don't play the doctors or the successful, entrepreneurs.
We always play a cop.
Right, we do
always a Latina cop somewhere.
Right? So I wanted to know, like, your take on that, on representation in Hollywood and the roles that we play.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because obviously, to your point, you want the roles, you want the representation, you want more Latino last names on the call sheet, right? And then you have films like In the Heights, where it's really hard because we want also the depiction of things to be very real that we can relate to, and it's like, I mean, in the Heights, for me, I've never seen so many Dominican flags on the big screen.
Right.
So I loved that aspect of it. Personally, I grew up in Jackson Heights, not in the Heights.
Right.
And I know, I mean, one of my best friends is from the Heights. And a lot of people, they had very, very mixed reviews about In the Heights. And then a lot of people have the same feeling and sentiment that you have about Orange is the New Black. But it's just, you're like stuck between a rock and a hard place, because you want the representation and you want to see yourself, but then you also want to be seen and depicted accurately. But then there are some things that are accurate about Orange is the New Black. Right. And you know what? That actually sucks that the stereotypical statistics are the majority Black and brown people behind bars, right? Right. So I don't know, I feel like with this topic, we can go on and on, because you want that representation. You want to be able to, listen, even on the other side of it, as an actor, you want to be able to audition and even have the opportunity for these roles. But then to your point, we aren't getting, I mean, I don't know if it really has to do with, instead of maybe focusing so much of wanting to be in front of the camera, maybe we have to make more strides behind the camera, to try to be in the writer's room, to try to be in the production offices, to try to be, the ones basically having control behind the scenes. So then when we do get a chance to put something out there, we can create the roles that represent us as well.
Right. And I was going to ask, do you feel any pressure, with taking on roles where you're typecast?
For sure, yeah, because you want to, it's your passion, right? If you're an actor, at some point you want any role, because they're far and few between. Especially for your, and then there's all ranges, right? Because Latinos, and that's another thing about Latin America, is just we're so different. When you talk about Central American, when you talk about Caribbean, when you talk about, even in the United States, the Latinos here in New York, in the tri-state area, are very different than Latinos in South Florida, very different than Latinos in Texas, very different than Latinos in California.
Absolutely.
So, in California, everybody's like, oh, you're Brazilian? I'm like, okay. Here, they're like, she Dominican. Like, don't know out the gate, because out on the West Coast, there aren't a lot of Dominicans. There aren't a lot of Latinos from the Caribbean. So it's so tough to make stories for us that can really blend all of us, because we're all so different within the culture. If that makes sense. But I will say, steering away from the stereotypes would be nice to see.
Yes.
Because
Agreed.
it's getting old at this point. Everyone, I think, is a lot more evolved. At the end of the day, even the most plain flyover state living people have at least been to Punta Cana for an all-inclusive. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So they're aware that Dominican Republic exists.
Yes.
They're aware that Puerto Rico exists. They're aware that. So I think now it's a matter of now being able to explore the differences within the culture and the different regions. And different backgrounds of Latinos. Now being in California, I never even ate a pupusa before, I'm sure I went to school with people from El Salvador, but now that I'm on the West Coast, because that's the majority there, I get to embrace and see what other Latinos,
the other cultures,
and other cultures
what they have to
within.
offer. Will we ever catch you behind the scenes and maybe producing?
I have no idea, because right now, because I've been so focused on my entrepreneurial journey. So,
which, by the way, that's
a little baby one.
This is the little baby one.
Yeah.
We got to talk about
because
it.
the full size, she healthy. She almost 17 ounces, 16.9 ounces.
This is dope.
Yeah, so that's Republica Skin. It's a vegan,
so
cruelty-free, organic skincare line that I launched a year ago. Paying a bit of homage to Dominican Republic. So we say born in Dominican Republic, made in the USA with pride and passion.
Yes.
And that's my baby.
What inspired you to start this line? Which, by the way, I always felt like you've had the glowy skin, you have the J-Lo glow. It comes very natural.
Thank you.
So that's why I'm this is very fitting for you.
I appreciate that. Well, I'm glad that it makes sense, that people feel like it makes sense, because it was basically growing up in New York and then flying to Dominican Republic and seeing the difference in my skin when I'm in the Caribbean versus when I'm here. In the Caribbean, you're glowy, dewy, hydrated, all the things. In New York, because of the harsher climate, the majority of the weather has you dry, ashy, flaky. So really I was trying to figure out, how can I have Caribbean-looking, feeling skin all year round, but in the comfort of my own home. So I got to just doing a bunch of DIY, and then my friends, they would, you know, touch my arm or something, like, wow, your skin. I'm like, oh, yours doesn't feel like this. So then the wheels started to turn, and then by way of social media, I became a beauty influencer. I was just trying everything and putting it out there, and then I started getting hired as a beauty influencer for big household name brands. So imagine the pressure of trying to do your own brand and already in an oversaturated market. So essentially, a long story short, a lot of the money that I made in entertainment, I decided to invest in launching a skincare brand. I basically got to a fork in the road where I was like, okay, I can maybe go buy my dream house or my dream car. No, I'll start a skincare line because that makes the most sense.
But then you show us the struggle.
Oh, yeah.
So
entrepreneurship is no joke. Really, I thought the entertainment business was tough. Listen, there's challenges in everything, but but I love that journey.
I love that you showed us that. I love that you went online and said, okay, these labels are not what I want.
Oh yeah.
So talk about that, because you order these labels. So you're thinking we're gonna get these amazing labels, you're gonna get it shipped home, you're gonna start this whole shipping process, and then what happens?
Well, when you're in consumer packaged goods, which is what Republica is, it's a packaged good that I'm selling to consumers. And when you're selling mostly anything, besides, I guess, you know, online, you know, intellectual property or something, or apps or whatever, when you're actually selling something that's tangible, you basically have to deal with what's called minimums. You know, your minimum purchase for things, because you can't really go to a factory and say, oh, I just want 10 jars.
No, you can't.
I mean, I guess you can, but those 10 jars are going to cost you a lot of money. The reason why you have to order minimums is because, so the minimum order is 10,000, 5,000, whatever it is. So the boxes that you're referring to, or the shipping boxes that the product was getting shipped in, and the minimums for that was 10,000. So I have to buy 10,000 boxes. And I guess because I was working on Republica so much, like after a while, that's all you see. Oh my Somewhere God. Down the production line, the boxes were getting made, they get shipped, they are arriving, I go pick them up, even just going to pick them up, the car breaks down, I have to go pick them up a different day. Yeah, it was a lot.
That should have been a sign. You should have, like, from that moment.
I finally get the boxes. I get one. They're loaded in my truck that I rented, and I finally put one of the boxes on a doorstep and say, like, coming to your doorstep soon, all on Instagram. And my friend writes back and replies to my IG story. She's like, it's misspelled. I said, what? So now I have 10,000 boxes of the brand misspelled.
What was misspelled?
They forgot the B in Republica. They put Republica. I said, well, what is that? So now I have 10,000 corrugated recycled boxes because, you know, we're trying to be sustainable queens around here. And it's not sustainable if I just go and throw out 10,000 boxes. Do you know how many trees that is?
Yeah, that's terrible.
So I have to now get onto the entrepreneurial hat of this journey that I'm on and figure out a solution. So it's always solutions after
solution. Did you cry?
Solution.
I feel like I would have cried in that moment.
Girl, are you kidding me?
I would have cried.
I didn't know what to do. Mind you, I've already spent the money and the time. And because of the pandemic, everything to get made delayed. I pushed back my launch date about 5 times.
Oof.
Because I was getting stuff from overseas. I ended up having to airlift instead of bringing it through sea, land and sea, because it's the cheaper route.
Right. All the things that you learned throughout this process.
Oh, so many things.
Wow.
I never, ever considered myself a perfectionist until I went on this journey. I never considered myself to be half the things that, problem solving, all these things, which is great because when you are bootstrapping something and when it is, I mean, I fully finance my brand 100% out of my own pocket. And it's a big, big leap of faith that you have to take.
Absolutely.
But I think ownership is really important, and I would love to see more representation in that regard, and supporting small growing businesses. So yeah, it's just, I mean, again, we can talk about this all day long.
Well, what would you say would be like the top 3 like best advice for someone who is starting their entrepreneurial journey?
Well, the first advice.
Entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, you got it. I'm going to say, don't do it unless you love it.
That's right.
Do not do it unless you absolutely love it. You're passionate about it. You know for a fact. Doesn't matter if, I mean, listen, we're talking right here and there's 10,000 other skincare brands that are launching as we speak. Yeah. I was very aware that I'm in an oversaturated market. What's going to make me different? Why are people going to want to buy Republica Skin versus a household name that's been around, known, trusted, tried, all the things?
For sure.
Especially when you don't have distribution out the gate, when you're DTC, direct to consumer, online. So I would say make sure you're absolutely passionate about it. It's not going to waver. You're not going to wake up one day and just be like, nah, because it's expensive. It's time consuming.
Very.
And it is a lot of emotions. So
That
especially
part.
when
I
you're not
love
just
that you
slapping your
brought
name
that
on
up.
something.
Yes.
The R&D, the research and development
Yes.
that I did to custom formula, for that custom formula took a lot of money, a lot of time. It took me almost 3 years to launch this.
Right.
So that I think is above anything else. I would also say try and learn as much aspect of your business as possible.
I agree.
I do believe that time is money. So if there's just something, like I am not very good with administration stuff. So recognizing when you need a team, recognizing that a team is important and you cannot do it all yourself.
Never. But how do you build a team? Like, how do you...
So one thing that I really love about being an entrepreneur and on this journey is that once you start meeting other people that are brand owners and entrepreneurs, they want to just give you a plethora of information.
That's right.
It's kind of like you're paying it forward because the minute you meet somebody else that you're, oh, this is my brand. Oh, you have a brand. Like, you guys have an automatic connection because you know it's not the easiest path to get something out and to sell people anything. To sell people anything is hard.
Yes.
Unless you're a Kardashian, I guess.
Right. Well, which is why you have to love it.
Absolutely.
Which is why you have to love
because
it.
you have to speak about, I mean, listen, this is something that I use every day.
Right.
I said, there's no way I'm going to put my name and likeness and money behind something that I don't love.
Right.
If you don't love it, I would say rethink it.
Right.
And
Would you ever sell it?
Sell the company?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Even though it's my baby, I want that baby to grow. I want it to walk. I want it to flourish. Yes, that is the goal. I would love to flip Republica into a I would love to still have creative control, or at least creative input. But absolutely, the goal is to scale this thing. Like right now, I am looking actively for capital. I do not want to continue to self-fund and bootstrap. I would love to be able to raise some capital to just really take it to the next level. I've been in business, thank God, gracias a Dios, for a year now, and I consider that year trial, error, feedback. I just wanted to put it out there, and I wanted it to grow organically. Right. I wanted people to this day to still discover the brand, and I really didn't spend money in marketing. A lot of it has been just word of mouth or by way of social media. And to me, that's invaluable. You can't pay for that. Very true. When people are raving about something that you've worked so hard to put out there.
What are some of the plans now? Are you going to expand the line?
For sure. Okay. And the third thing is,
you see how we just go from like, yes, go ahead.
Do not be afraid of feedback. And just.
I like that.
Yeah. And really what I wanted to say, and my mind kind of went somewhere else, was just launch. You're going to think it's never going to be right. It's not going to be perfect. You will never do it if you just don't just go
gotta do
ahead
it.
and get it to as best of a place as possible. There's still things that I'm sure I would have loved to tweak, things that I find out along the way. I'm selling you a 16.9 ounce jar because I wanted my people, whoever follow me, I'm that girl that loves beauty products, and growing up, I know what that's like to have to save up to get something that feels luxurious.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna give them more bang for their buck, not knowing, again, on the entrepreneurial journey, that to ship almost 17 ounces is expensive. So when people go on my website and they're like, sis, $10 for shipping, like, that's the make it or break it on the checking out of the cart. But I say, I guarantee you will not find another sugar body polish that's organic, vegan, cruelty-free on the market
Ooh,
for
talk
this
about it,
amount and for the price point.
Yes.
You can go anywhere and you will not find it for the quality ingredients that Republica has in the sugar body polish. But yes, I already have the next 2 products.
Yeah.
Good to go. That's a sample size, but I'm gonna have the travel size hopefully very, very soon by the time this airs, so people can get their holiday travel on. But
yeah, no, this is a great holiday gift. Like, this is
I like to think
something
so.
that I suffer from psoriasis. So
Oh,
if someone
this is-
gave me this, I would be like, thank you.
It's
very
really
much.
great.
Yeah. Especially like you said, with New York weather, this does damage to my skin. So this, I know it works because I've actually tried it before. But I am excited to see what you're gonna launch next. So now we have Republica, the movie. What else, plus one is coming out. What else do you have coming up?
I definitely want to get back to my YouTube channel.
It's me, Julissa. Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love seeing like your aunt cooking. Like, I love
Oh my
all
gosh.
of that.
Yeah, I love my aunt's cooking. Well, I think this already be out, but I'm gonna go guest host on Dish Nation.
Ooh.
So that should be a lot of fun. Yeah, I've been balancing the entertainment stuff with the entrepreneurial stuff. I want to be able to now start speaking more about the journey because I feel more comfortable now that I've been in it out there to sell and in retail for a little over a year. But behind the scenes of it all to launch was a journey that I think if anyone's feeling discouraged, going on these panels and things like We All Grow Latina, Create and Cultivate.
Love We All Grow. And you work with Anna Flores?
Yes.
Anna Flores.
So I actually went to school with the co-CEO,
Love
with
that.
Vanessa Santos. And we are friends, kind of like us, where we pick up where we left off whenever we see each other. So it's been really, I like those platforms and those kind of forums where you can spread knowledge. So it's good. Yeah, I'm excited about, the next 2 products.
Yes.
That are going to be launching at the same time.
All right, Julie, I know you have to get out of here, but before you get out of
Catching a
here.
flight.
I know. Before you get out of here, we are going to do some quick questions with you. All right. Tell me you're Latina without telling me you're a Latina.
When you can't express yourself without using your hands.
So true. Why do we do this?
I don't know, girl. It's just part of who we are.
Yeah. Do they ever tell you in hosting gigs, like, stop using your hands?
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah.
And then you're like, you know what? I'm just going to put my hands in the back of me. Okay. What was the last movie that made you cry with laughter?
Oh, with laughter?
Mm-hmm.
Dang, that's a really good question. I don't think I've seen
Come on, there has to
a
be.
really... Okay, this wasn't a movie, but it had me cracking up because it's with 2 actors that are in funny movies. Did you see when Kevin Hart and The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, were playing the tortilla slapping?
Can't say that I have. Now I need to watch it.
Hilarious.
Is it?
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I'm going to watch that.
First of all, the height difference alone is hysterical.
Yeah.
And they are slapping each other with tortillas. And it ends up being more Kevin Hart doing the slapping. It is so funny.
Okay, I'm definitely going to watch that. What are 3 staple recipes that every Latina should have in their kitchen or should know how to make?
I definitely would say rice.
Absolutely.
Whether it's white rice, arroz de guandule, some kind of rice.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me you're Latina without rice.
Arroz.
Yeah. Beans to go with the rice.
Arroz con habichuela.
Yep. And some kind of protein, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why my mind automatically said mango.
Oh, I love mango.
Like I automatically said,
If
like
that
you
was,
should know how to make
if I ever
mango.
had to pick a last meal in life, it would be
Oh my
Dominican
God.
breakfast. It
Yes.
would definitely be mango.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyone who knows me, follows me, they know that is just the way to my heart.
Yes. Thank you so much, Julie, for coming on.
Thank you.
Is there any last things that you want to say to your fans? Because you have fans, girl.
Oh gosh.
You have
Y'all
fans.
still here? Is this thing
They-
still on? No. Well, thank you always for the support. Thank you for creating outlets like this and, inviting me to just share a little bit of the things I've collected along the way. And, you're constantly working on your toolkit. So it's nice to collect the gems as much as possible. And when you do, sharing them. And yeah, this was actually a lot of fun. So I hope that you guys continue to follow me. You can check out my socials, YouTube, and of course, republicaskin.com. And yeah.
Thank you. All right, now I got to get her out of here because if you miss your flight, I know I'm going to get a call.
I'm coming back to drink some more, which is not a bad thing.
Thank you, Julie.
No problem. Thank you.